Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to be talking about FZF and how you can use that with SFDX to speed up your workflow. So let me just preface this by saying that this video may not be for everybody. So if you are primarily using Visual Studio Code for your Salesforce development, this video may not be as relevant for you. But I personally enjoy using the CLI for most of my development workflow. And I'm a heavy NeoVim user. I use NeoVim a lot more than I use Visual Studio Code. So this script kind of makes sense for people like me. So in this video, I'm going to share how you could use a script like this personally for yourself if you work heavily on the command line, particularly on the bash shell. So let me just start by talking a little bit about what FZF is. FZF is this fuzzy finder script that can be used on different types of shells, such as Bash or ZSH or whatever. And it's really powerful, and it basically takes in any input that has multiple lines, and then allows you to fuzzy search through that. Basically, any input, and it allows you to fuzzy search through that. And it has a lot of powerful options as well. The primary option being the ability to show you previews of your current selection by executing whatever command you want on the current selection. And it's super fast, and the fuzzy search that you get with it is pretty amazing. So I only started using it about a couple of months ago, and since then I've been trying to figure out more and more ways of how I could incorporate this into my workflow to help speed things up. And I have to deal with sifting through a lot of data or searching through a lot of data, and this is one such example of how FZF has helped me. So let's go back to the command line. So basically what FZF does is like I said, it allows you to search through files or folders or basically the output of any command that gives a lot of data. So for example, if I type in ls, I get the list of my files and folders. Now, if I pipe this output to FZF, it basically allows me to fuzzy search through the output and then pick the result, print the result onto the command line. So this is pretty awesome. I mean, not a whole lot of application for this basic command, but the additional options that you get with it is what makes it better. And so I have used some of those options to help me use the SFDX or the Salesforce CLI better in Bash. So let me just show you how that works. So I have this Dreamhouse LWC repo. Now let's say I have to create a scratch org to push my code to. I'll show you how that I'm going to create the scratch org. So on my computer, I'm going to hit Control E. Control E is the shortcut that I have found for SFDX and FZF. So when I hit Control E, it brings up the list of all the SFDX commands that I can fuzzy search through. Now I wanted to create org, scratch org, so I just type in org create, and org create is the first command that is automatically selected, as you can see. And not just that, it also shows me a preview window to the right, which basically contains a description of what the command is, what it does, the examples, usage, so you can look at it, you can look at the flags or whatever. If you wanted to make sure that this is indeed the command you want, you can sift through the list of commands using arrow keys or Control J and K keys as well. And so each of these commands have a description, example, usage, etc. So which is pretty awesome. So you don't need to go to the browser to look up commands and see what they do, what flags are available, and so on and so forth. And this is even better when you install plugins and such, which you may not use very often. But when you do need to use them, you may not have an equivalent command in the Visual Studio Code command palette or whatever, and you would need to go back to the browser to see what it does. But if the plugin developer includes the plugin documentation in the CLI, so you can use this autocomplete or this fuzzy search to quickly look up the command, the options and such, and just enter it really quickly. So let me just go ahead and select this. Now, what happens here is after I type in the command and I hit Control E again, it brings up the list of all the flags that are applicable to that particular command. So this is even better because I don't have to like type out the flags by hand or the characters by hand, make a typo or whatever. And I can also look at what each flag does as I am scrolling through the list of flags. So this is pretty good because the characters that represent flags is not really consistent through all SFDX commands. So you might be confused as to, -p means something in one command and a totally different thing in a different command. So that way, this really helps. So let me just start by selecting destination file. And then I'm going to say bash the destination file and then hit Control E again. And I'm going to set this as the default username. And I'm going to pick an alias. Now, this is another feature where you can select multiple flags by using the tab or the shift tab key. So I'm setting it to the default username by tabbing on the set default username option. And now I want to set the alias for this as well. So I'm going to hit set alias and hit enter. And so it puts both the flags on the command line. So I'm going to give it a alias and just push it back. Wait 5 minutes, whatever, and then hit enter. So this will create the scratch org. And so yeah, this is basically what FZF and SFDX can do for you. It really has helped me personally using Salesforce CLI in the bash shell because I no longer find myself going to the browser to figure out what different switches do or what each command does and such, or I don't have to like type in SFDX command -f and help to figure out what the command does and then type in the command. So this has been really helpful for me personally. Like to set this up for yourself. You can find the detailed instructions over at my repo. So basically, you need to install FZF, of course, JQ for parsing JSON, the Salesforce CLI using NPM, and the bash shell. And setup is really easy. Once you install FZF, all you need to do is copy the contents of my FZF keybindings.bash file to the FZF keybindings.bash file that you get from the FZF repo itself. So this is the original FZF keybindings.bash file that you get from the FZF repo. If it's not already linked to your bash RC, so you make sure you add it to your bash RC. So it's got a few functions here and then key bindings down at the bottom. So my file also follows a similar pattern. It has a couple of functions, so copy these functions or in this file after the last function here or wherever in the function section, and then copy the key bindings to the key binding section. So basically here, the shortcut that has been bound is Control E, as you can see, and that's pretty much all you need to do. There's a couple more things here at the bottom that you can add to your bash RC if you are okay with a few second delay every time you start your shell, but if not, you would have to run this command manually. Basically SFDX commands JSON, which basically dumps all the SFDX commands that you have on your machine into a JSON file, and this is what is the script uses for autocomplete and such. So make sure if you don't add this to your bash RC file, make sure to run this command once in a while to keep the list of commands and flags updated. And that would be it. That's all. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment in the comment section below.